Hey there folks, Graham here. Today we're talking MODX MIDI modes, and in particular we'll be exploring the often overlooked hybrid mode. And by the way, everything I'm covering here today also applies if you're lucky to own a Montage. But first off, a little background into the MIDI modes on the MODX. If you go to the utility settings as shown on the screen here, and then click on Advanced, and then click on MIDI input-output modes, as you'll see on the far left hand side, there are three options: multi, single and hybrid. Multi means that each individual part within a performance is sent on a separate MIDI channel. So the MIDI data for part 1 is sent on channel 1, the MIDI data for part 2 is sent on channel 2, and so on all the way up to part 16 on channel 16. Single means that for all the parts of an individual performance, the MIDI data will be sent on a single channel, which you can define in the channel box that comes up when you select single, as shown in the screenshot down in the bottom left corner. But what on earth is hybrid? Well, it's not some sort of weird hybrid creature, and it doesn't turn your synthesizer into an eco-friendly hybrid powered music machine. But what it does do is effectively combine the benefits of both the single and the multi modes. In hybrid mode, you can control multiple parts simultaneously on the MODX keyboard as if you were in single mode, whilst allowing other parts to be controlled separately on their respective channels by external controllers or even software. Any parts with keyboard control set to on will be controlled by the MODX keyboard, and any parts with keyboard control turned off can be controlled by an external MIDI controller assigned to the relevant channel. For example, showing on the screen, I have a performance with 6 parts. Parts 1 to 5 are the main parts of the performance, with the bass, pads and drums, etc. Parts 6 and 7 are then blank, and then on part 8 I have a lead sound that I want to be able to play separately from the main performance using an external MIDI controller. In my case, the Keylab 61 that sits above my MODX. To do this, I go into the utility section, choose hybrid, and next to hybrid choose channel 1. Then I go back to the performance screen, and you'll see for parts 1 to 5 I have the keyboard control enabled. That's the 5 little keyboard icons that are in green at the moment. And then I have the keyboard control turned off for the part that I want to play separately, i.e. part 8, and you'll see here that the little keyboard control icon is greyed out. What this now means is parts 1 to 5 are all assigned to MIDI channel 1, because that's the channel I defined in the utility section under the hybrid mode, and they are all controlled by the MODX keyboard. But part 8, with its keyboard control turned off, is assigned to MIDI channel 8 and can now be triggered by my external keyboard, the Keylab 61 here, which is set to transmit on channel 8. So now if I play the MODX keyboard, it only triggers parts 1 to 5, and if I play the Keylab, it triggers part 8. Which means I can do something like this. So how does this really differ from single and multi modes? Well, if we go back into the utility screen and then move from hybrid to single and then go back to our performance, with the keyboard control turned off on part 8, I can play parts 1 to 5, but I can't play part 8 on my keylab like I did before, as it's being broadcast on channel 1 along with all the other parts, and I've got the keyboard control turned off. If I turn the keyboard control back on for part 8, now when I play parts 1 to 5 on the MODX, part 8 will also sound, which I don't want, like this. So as you see, I've got no way of separating the parts out between the two keyboards as I can in hybrid mode. And if I go back into the utility screen and change to multi and then go back to the performance, this now creates conflicts with a lot of my other hardware gear that is interconnected with the MODX via MIDI. You see, I have my Matrix Brute behind me here on MIDI channel 1, my Deep Mind on channel 3, my Poly Brute on channel 4, and some other desktop synths that you can't see at the moment on channels 5 and 6. And therefore in multi-mode, if I go to play the MODX keyboard where everything is being transmitted on an individual MIDI channel, not only will it trigger parts 1 to 5 and part 8 on my MODX, but it will also trigger any of my hardware that is occupying those MIDI channels. So I get a bit of a mess like this. And then I have to go and turn off my Poly Brute that I've just triggered. The hybrid mode allows me to overcome this by having all the parts I want to perform from the MODX assigned to a single MIDI channel that doesn't conflict with any of my other hardware. And then any parts I want to control via an external keyboard can be assigned discreetly to a MIDI channel of my choice that doesn't, again, conflict with any of my hardware gear. But what about splitting the keyboard on the MODX? Why can't I just have the lead sound up the top end of the keyboard and all the other parts down the bottom end of the keyboard? Well, you can, but then that restricts the range of notes for each of those parts. So if your lead sound is at the top half of the keyboard, you can only play the notes in the range of that top half, and for your other parts you can only play in the range down the bottom half of the keyboard. Whereas in hybrid mode, the main parts 1 to 5 are accessible across the entire range of the keyboard, and the lead sound that we've separated out on channel 8 is available across the entire range on our external controller. All this provides much greater flexibility with hybrid mode in how you can use your MODX, and could be very handy in, say, live performance situations, allowing you to create complex multi-part performances on your MODX, but with some of the parts being played via the MODX itself and other parts being played from separate MIDI controllers or indeed triggered via software. For example, you could have a 16-part performance on your MODX with parts 1 to 8 being controlled from the MODX keyboard, and then parts 9 to 16 being controlled by various MIDI controllers or triggered, as I said earlier, by software. So that's it. That's MIDI modes on the MODX, in particular the hybrid mode. If you've never used it before, why not go and experiment a little bit and see what it can do for you. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that bell, as it really, really is appreciated. And if you've got any questions on this or any of my other content, please leave them in the comments down below and I will get back to you. Indeed, any other comments or feedback are of course gratefully received. But for now, I've been Graham, take care and catch you later.